Hey guys, this is Ant bringing you another Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. In this one I'm going to show you how to use a game instance to store data and items and transfer them to another level. So I'll give you a quick demonstration in the window now. So basically what I've done is I've set up so that these boxes acting as actors, so every time it gets picked up it basically adds an integer and prints the amount on the screen. Now what happens is we go into another level and you notice that it stores the data free from the other level and carries it forward to the next level. So I'll quickly show you how to do this. So I'm going to create our game instance now, and in order to do that all you do is right click in the window, blueprint class, and then if you use the drop down for all classes and then just type in game instance, it should appear. Hit select and we call that game data. And pretty much all the game instance is when the player loads up the game, he goes into the main menu, plays the game, goes into different levels. That whole game instance represents that session from start to finish. As soon as the player quits the game or exits the game, that game instance then closes down. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that game instance to hold the data so that we can transfer information between levels. The first thing we need to do as well before we go into anything, go to edit, go to your project settings, maps and modes, and what you need to do is you need to go to game instance and you need to change it to the one that you've just created. So in this case it'll be game data, and then just quickly Control S to save that. Quickly we're just going to have a quick look at the game data file. So if you go into it, it basically has all the event graph and pretty much everything that you would find in a standard blueprint. So you've got your functions, your variables that you can create for it, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this to add an inventory interface so that things that are picked up by the player are carried forwards into another level. Okay, so now that we've got our game instance created, the next thing I'm going to do is create the inventory interface. And if you followed the previous tutorial and the flashlight tutorial part 1, it goes into more depth, but I'm going to quickly just go over that again. So what you do, right click in the window, blueprints, and then you want a blueprint interface. I'm just going to call that inventory. Double click on it, and then what we need to do is we've got a function already there. I'm going to add a string, and I'm going to call it add box. Rename that as well. Call that add box as well. And next I'm going to add another function, and this is going to be checkboxes. And then all you do is in the inputs add another string, and I'm going to call that contains box. And then the next one we need to do is add a boolean, and I'm just going to call that picked up, enter, and then basically that covers the inventory interface for the time being. Just quickly save that. And for the blueprint side of things, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly create our actors as well. So I want a blueprint class actor, and I'm just going to call that a pickup. I'm going to go into it and I'm going to add a couple of components. The first one I'm going to add is, in fact I'll add a cube, a box, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a collision as well. A box collision. Let's call that collision. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly scale it out. If you press R on the keyboard to get the scale tool, scale that out a little bit more so that basically it covers the box. Hit compile, and then what I'm going to do as well, I'm going to just sort out the functionality for this. So while you've got collision selected, right click in the window, add on component begin overlap, select collision again, and then add events end overlap. Now what I want to happen is I want it so that when the player approaches the box, he's able to interact with it. So basically to do that, all you do is drag it at the top one, begin overlap, enable input, and then when the player leaves the collision on end overlap, disable input, and then all you do is type in get your player controller, and then you just plug it into these nodes here, and then basically that'll allow the player to interact using input. Right click up here, type input E, and then that pretty much sets it up so that you can use an input on it. The next blueprint I want a portal to the second level. So again, right click in the window, choose an actor, and we'll call that portal. Now, it doesn't need to be too technical for this. All it is, it's, if I can spell, it's a box collision. Hit compile, go into the event graph, select your collision, right click on component begin overlap, and then all I'm going to do is drag out that, type in open level, and then I'm just going to choose my second level. Oh, I'll create another level, so bear with me again. Hit compile. So to do that, all you do is go in the window, a new level, choose default, file save as again. There you go. And for some reason, there it is. For some reason it didn't appear straight away. That's fine. Double click on your first person example map, save that. Go back into your portal blueprints, and then under your level name, choose level 2. Now I'll just quickly drag that in to demonstrate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag the portal in, say over here, press the OR tool to scale it out a bit, make it a bit wider, push it up, and I've hit play and walked over to here. It loads up level 2. So next thing I'll do is I'll show you how to implement the inventory interface with the character and the game data instance. So next thing we need to do is we need to add the inventory interface to the game instance. So to do that, double click on your game data, and it should bring up the event graph. So all you need to do is you need to basically add your inventory to the class settings. So if to do that, just go in there, go to your drop down, and then select inventory, or whatever you called your inventory interface. So what we do is you type in events, add box. If you remember, that's what we created within the interface. Also, we need to create a variable. And what we need to do is go into variables, add one, make it into a string, make it into an array, and then we'll call that box 1. Or box added actually, yeah, call it that one. Drag it in, get, and then as a getter, and then drag out of the nodes there, and we want to add. Connect your executable pin up to that, add box there, and then hit compile. Next we need to go into the interface itself and program the functionality so that once the box has been added, that event's been picked up, the inventory contains it. So to do that, drag your variable in again as a getter, drag out, and type in contains. Again, if you followed the previous tutorial, you should have something that's like this already, but I'll go through it again just to make sure. So connect your contains box to the bottom node, and then connect your boolean red pin to picked up. Hit compile again. Pretty much that's all you need to do with the inventory system at this point. But there's one other thing I want to do with endgame data, and that's I want to create an integer so that when the player picks up a box or picks up several boxes, it takes a note of how many it's been collected at that point and transfers it through to the new level. So to do that, I'm going to add a new variable. I'm going to choose an integer. I'm going to deselect the array because I don't want it to be an array. And I want to call that total number of boxes. Hit compile and keep the default value at 0 for the time being. So save that. And then next what we'll do is we'll go into the character and start fleshing out the ability so that the player can pick up these boxes. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add the inventory interface to the player. To do that, to make it a bit easier, I'm just going to grab a first person character and I'm just going to move it into the content folder so that we can easily move between the characters and the inventory interface if we need to. Double click on your first person character and that'll bring you into the event graph. So what I'm going to do next is I want to add the inventory interface to the character as well. Hit compile, and then similar to the game data, I want to actually add the event for picking up objects as well. So event add box, and there you see it appears there. Similar to the thing, we need to add the variable as well. So I'm just going to call that box 1. It doesn't matter about the naming conventions, you can call it whatever you want, but I'm just going to add that, call it that for now. And then similar to that, I'm going to, what we did in game data, drag off that, type in add, and then just connect it all together. And then what we'll do is while we're here, we'll go into the checkboxes part in the inventory interface. We'll drag box 1 in here. We're going to drag out contains item, and again connect it all up. Hit compile, and there you go. That's basically added the functionality in, so that the player will, the inventory interface will basically communicate between the blueprints to notify that things have been added or picked up. So what we'll do next is we'll start to flesh out the blueprints for the first person character, so that whenever they pick up a box, it registers that and adds it to the game data. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to add in the first person character an ability to check whether something's been picked up. Yeah, so to do that I'm going to use the F key. So right click, type F, and then it should come up. And then what I want to do is I want to make it so that it checks the game data to see something's in there. So to do that, all you do is right click and type in get game instance, drag off that, and it should come up with caster game data. Now what happens is it'll get the current instance of the game which we've set, which is game data, and just for an advisory, make sure that you get game instance before you cast the game data as well, otherwise you might get the wrong node and it displays an error. So as the game data, I want to check if something's been picked up. So call that want to check to see if the game data contains a box. So what we do is from picked up, drag out the branch, it'll automatically connect that, and then for debugging I'm going to use a couple of print strings here. Just call it something picked up, and then control, select that node, control W, not picked up. Just quickly hit compile. So I'm just going to quickly test that. Great, so it is registering that it's picking up the nodes, which is good because it's straight away, it's firing through the inventory system, it's going through the cast, and it's saying it's not been picked up yet. So that's good. So next part, what we're going to do is we're going to use these same nodes here, and we're just going to connect these up to the add, and then as game data, I'm going to call the function add box. Now if you remember, we set up a node for getting a number of boxes and setting them when they've been picked up. So to do that, I'll just type in get total number of boxes, it'll put a conversion pin in, and each time that a box is picked up we'll add an integer, and then from that we're going to set set total number of boxes. Okay, the nodes are a bit of a mess, but don't worry about that. Doesn't have to be completely perfect. Hit compile. So what we need to do now is we need to make it so that the boxes are actually interactive and actually get put into the inventory system. So we'll go into a pickup, and what we want to do is we want to cast, so over at and we want our inventory system functions. So let's add box. There we go. So that should fire through there, and let's hit compile, but just quickly test that. Oh, I hope I've actually dragged some in as well. So, another mistake I made as well. As soon as we want it to be picked up, we don't want the we want the destroy actor as well. Also, while we're here, we'll add a print string to the end of that, so it should display the number on screen as well. So let's just give that a go. 1, 2, 3. Now let's just check if it's saved in a game instance as well. But there's no other boxes in the other level. Yeah, sorry about the cut-off. For some reason, my Unreal Engine is not liking me having level 2 in the main content folder. It keeps disappearing. So what I'm going to do is to quickly remedy that, I'm just going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to put the maps into there, just for simplicity. I don't have to keep trying to find a map that keeps disappearing. It's not good. So I'm just going to quickly move them to there. It should save it, and if I go into my maps folder, they're both there. Hopefully that should resolve the issue. So to continue where I left off, I'm going to go into level 2, and I'm going to drop some of these box actors into here as well. Like I say, it's different level, but you can still use these anyway. I'm just going to quickly hold Alt, drag that across so that we've got 2 here. I'm going to go back into my first person example map, save those selected, and then I'm just going to test, see if there's any, see if the stats are carried through. So picked up 1, 2, 3. I've gone gone through the portal. 4, 5. So it looks like it is carrying forward the abilities, and if you notice, if I press F, it's saying picked up as well. So I'll just again, I'm going to test that again. So say if I pressed F and it says it's not picked up, I'm going to go through the portal, not picked up, press E, picked up. So that's how pretty much you get something to work using the game data or using game instances. Now, somebody messaged me on the on YouTube to ask how do you make it work for your flashlights. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate that now by just changing around the blueprint and first person character. So where I've got the F key, which in a previous tutorial I had to use in a flashlight, I'm going to just create a flashlight instead and then hook it up to this branch. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to add a light, spotlight. We'll go into the viewport, and I'm just going to quickly drag that in, hit compile. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the default visibility off, and then I'm going to slave it to the first person camera as well. Flashlights. Now what I need to do next is go into the settings, so change the intensity, lower the outer cone a bit, give it an inner cone. There we go. I'm not going to go into too much detail, just get it there so that it's functional. Go back into the event graph, and from this string I'm going to drag a flip-flop, get our flashlight, and then from there I'm going to toggle visibility. So if you remember with a flip-flop, all that does is basically, it's like a switch, on-off switch. Drag it into there, hit compile. Oh, beg your pardon, didn't connect that node up. Hit compile, that'll fix that. And I'm just going to try it now. So it says it's not picked up, and there you go. You can see the flashlight. Obviously light settings aren't right, but you know what I mean. So hopefully if I go through the portal, there you go. You can see we've got the flashlight ability. So that basically brings us to the end of the tutorial. I'm sorry it's slightly longer than the other ones, but again I hope you guys find it useful and that you're able to sort of adapt it to what you need it to do. So that brings us to the end of the game instance tutorial.